Thank you. I actually don't get on stage as much as I used to because I have a team of people who do that for me, and it's nice to get out in front of a smaller group of people. Next week is DockerCon, which I hope some of you are going to. DockerCon? No? Yes? All right. There'll be probably 5,000 people at Moscone. It's a little thing. So nice to be here. Okay, so the topic is who do you work for? And this is a question that comes up a lot in developer relations for some reason, reasons which I will start to go into. But it is not this conversation. This is a frequent topic of conversation in developer relations. It's a very valid one. Where do you sit? Who do you work for in a company, marketing, product, engineering? That's a very common question. But for me, I'm much more interested in this conversation. And I put in consciously the word practitioner instead of developers because I work for a company that works with both developers and IT system ops people who often there's a huge gulf between. So practitioners, people who are technical practitioners who use the product. So who do you work for? And this is it's a tricky question, but it involves us figuring out what each of these groups of people want, and then figuring out our strategies regarding how do we position that. And I'm not going to give you a clear answer. Right? A lot of you will get up on stage and say, I work for the developer. I work for the IT ops pro. But they don't pay your bills. How many of you are in it for the sweet, sweet developer relations money? No? No? Okay. Yeah, me either. A lot of you do this for reasons which I'll get into later, but more about your own motivations. And earning more money than in another kind of role is usually not that reason. So, but that is one of the primary motivations for your company. So I spent a lot of time over the last few years thinking about why do companies do developer relations products? And I thought about this in part because I worked at a company that for a long time actually didn't know. I'll get a little bit more into that in a bit, but the point was it didn't have a clear vision until much later, and I see a couple of Googlers and ex-Googlers smiling up at me. They know what I'm talking about, I think. But I've identified sort of three broad categories of why companies do developer products, do practitioner-oriented products. And the first one, and the most obvious one, is actually the reason that they all do it, which is money. But there are three different ways in which they make that money. And the first one is somebody gives you money for your product. This is a classic developer relations strategy. This is Microsoft. Somebody buys their product, and then they develop on it, and then then they come back and spend more money. All the infrastructure providers, a lot of consultants, a lot of different companies represented here today probably earn money in this way. I work for Docker. We're an enterprise software company. I think it's a nice, clean way because your customers come to you and they say, hi, I want this thing. I will pay money for it. And you say, yes, I will try and do that for you. I think that makes sense. Or no, it doesn't make sense because reasons, but whatever. That becomes the fundamental, in some sense, a cleaner transaction than something like users. So this is a strategy employed by companies, and this was one when we employed it at Google. The idea is that you create users of some other product through a developer relations strategy. This is the older Google stuff like Google Maps API, but also Android. You get out there and you incentivize developers for a variety of reasons to use your cool stuff, and then they deliver users to you. So the Google Maps API was one of the first APIs out there that was like monster on the web. Um, and it's last I looked, and this was literally 5 years ago, they were on over 1 million websites. 1 billion people were seeing them every month. It was just like monster. But when it started, it's hard to remember back in 2006, the web wasn't settled. It wasn't like, this is the thing, and everybody's going to go there. You still had a lot of people who were building apps completely offline. You still do, but this is, back then, the web was still trying to get there. Google was still trying to make it. They were getting a lot of money, but they wanted a lot more. They got it. And they wanted to make sure that there was content for people to find. So they provided APIs that allowed you, as a developer, to go out there and add something to your site. And the more sites there were, the more people were searching for sites, the more people got money. And this similar kind of strategy with Android, you're protecting the search product, you're getting a lot of people to use mobile search through mobile apps. Okay, I spent a lot of time on that, but the last one is data. Now, this can be Cambridge Analytica, data about you, but this could also be like data about how our open source project works, or data on Foursquare or Google Places API, data on where things are in the world. It's a lot of, different kinds of data. I often bring up one product that Google had, which is Google Reader, which wasn't strictly speaking a developer product, but encouraged developers to use RSS feeds. And Google then looked at that and went, oh, okay, all these people are giving us their RSS feeds, so we now know where a whole bunch of stuff is, so we can index it. That was the reason behind Google Reader, and that's why when they didn't need it anymore, they canceled it, even though, much to the horror of probably every engineer still at Google and millions of people around the world, that it was their favorite product, and it's gone. The reason was it no longer made them money. It no longer served a purpose that made them money. Okay, so practitioners, on the other hand, have a lot of different reasons than companies. They want features, certainly. Everybody wants something that they don't have to build themselves. They want something that's cool, they want something that works and will just work and they can count on it working. And they want something that will save them money or earn them money in some way. It's particularly like enterprise software, and again, just to pay the bills, that's what Docker does. We create products that let you save money on VM costs, make you much more agile, blah, blah, blah. We give you a lot of features. We help save you a lot of money. Come to DockerCon. Okay, I've paid the bills. So this is the most critical understanding when you start a job, when you are evaluating a job that you want to do, and this talk is mostly, and it's aimed at you. This is about your planning, your decisions around your career, but also your decisions around what you do in the projects that you're working on. And that is understanding this dynamic where companies want something. They want a way to make money, and practitioners want something else. They want maybe a way to make money, but they have their particular needs. Understanding what those two things are is where we live. And it is crucial to your understanding, otherwise you're going to end up on a canceled product. Okay. Now I hear you saying, I just want to build community. I just want to lead people. I want to promote women in tech. I want to give out t-shirts. All these things are great, and I'm not mocking any of them. These are really important things. These are you thinking about what you want. But fundamentally, if you're not giving either practitioners or the company what they want, and we all know what they really want, which is stickers. Sorry, Jono. Sorry, Jono. You got to incentivize people with things. I know you just said not to do that, but that's what people want. They want the t-shirts. They want the sweet, sweet stickers. Okay. Okay, so, and thank you to Mary, I think, who puts together the DevRel Weekly. This is how I get my quotes. So, fundamentally, who do you work for? Only in developer relations do we really ask this question. Do you work for the practitioner or do you work for your company? And the answer is, it depends. I know that's a weak answer, but there's a lot of factors that go into what makes up that you need to think about where you're at. If you're at a young company, just starting out, their focus may be on data and users. Data on how well our product does, what people want, open source contributors. You just want people to use the thing so that you can show that it has value. If you work for a young team at a company, you still have you often will have that same incentive, but your turnaround times are going to be a lot slower before you move on to another stage. So company maturity, product maturity, how much adoption you're getting out in the community, these are going to change your strategies and shape how you think about things. And this, for instance, is big company, big team, somebody from AWS very rightly saying, I work for you. Mates, I think. Yes, mates. I work for you, mates. Because that is really important. That's the position that you can take, and you can be that voice of the user solely. You can be out there in the community just being like, I heard about this great open source project and that one, and you should look about this, and this is really cool, and here's how you can do it. And that's super important. But it's a luxury that is often provided by being at a very large team. So these are just things you think about. So this brings us back to here and figuring out how to bring these things together, figuring out where you live within these things. So here's some strategies to think about. One is, and I have to remind myself the order I put these in, help your company understand why it makes the product. A lot of companies in the old days, and they probably still do this, will say, we're just going to develop this thing and then see if people use it. And if they use it, we'll figure out a way for us to charge for it. That's great if you've got that luxury. That's going to be very rare, though. You'll come across that, and once in a lifetime, probably. Most of the time, they may not know, and if they don't know, that thing's not going to be around for long. And I'm saying this in this, heavy tones, because what I really mean is that means that your job on there is not going to be around for very long unless you can make that successful and you can keep them doing the things that they do. And it's only going to succeed like Google Reader does as long as it keeps serving that function. As soon as that stops, it doesn't. All right. So another thing is be honest with your users about why the product exists. Not in a negative way, my company only does this for this reason, but in a way that helps them understand how much they can invest in it. And the reason I say that is you don't want to trick people, right? You don't want to be like, this is the thing, this is the next great developer tool, you should always use my new widget because this will be the thing that earns you a lot of money and it will be the thing that does all the features that you need if that thing can go away. If the reason that they're putting that out there is to make users, they will invest in it only so long as it gets some users. It's not a bad thing. I'm not dissing that approach. I'm just saying you should be clear with developers why, so that you help the company maintain its reputation. And then, and this is not this is not like a priority order. These are just strategies that you can adopt. You need to find ways in which to convince your team that changing the product or meeting the user's needs helps them earn money more. Whatever way it is, helps them get more users, helps them get more data, helps them literally spend more money. And I think back to opportunities that I missed doing this 10 years ago. And I think things could have changed a lot. And that's a really important lesson for yourself too. Think back on, because many of you in this room have been doing this for a while, think back on when you could have done this and when it might have made a difference. And then finally, keep your integrity. Because this is the other part that we don't talk a lot about, at least in my experience in developer relations community, is this is tech. If you're probably going to be moving on in 2 to 5 years to another job. Your reputation in that community, not to mention to yourself, is really important. So just being honest with yourself, being honest with your users, and not in a mean way, not like all companies lie and they're trying to exploit you. All companies are trying to make money. We live in a capitalist society. If you don't want that, try make a different kind of society. That's fine. That's a different job. And I'm not like some right-wing libertarian or something up here trying to convince you of that. I'm just like, this is reality, what we live in. So keeping your own integrity also helps you land your next job, whether it's in that company, whether it's on a different developer product, whether it's in a different role in that company, or it's outside the company. And finally, within all of this, what's important to you? And I kind of mashed this up a little bit. Like the other ones are, I think, a little bit more straightforward because I don't know what's important to you. Everybody here is an individual rather than a statistical block of people. Everybody has their own goals, their own desires, and they're mixed up in a way that's not necessarily like I can't go, in my career, the most important thing to me is X. I don't have that. Like from moment to moment, it changes, but there are certain continuing things, but there are many things in there that are important. So you need to think about what is important to you and how you steer this. You try and steer your company, and your developers, how you provide that leadership, and how it gets you to the next thing that you want to be doing. So, of course, the answer to the question, wow, it went faster than I thought, to who do you work for is you work for you. You work for yourself and creating your own career, creating your own opportunities, and you work for the company because they pay you, and you work for the developers. But fundamentally, the most important thing to you is, I'm going to guess, you and your family and whatever your priorities are within that. Okay. I don't know. Do I have time for questions? Yeah? Okay. Thank you.
I would like to hear your thoughts on how we're able to effectively maintain integrity on the job when management makes a decision we don't agree with, but we want to be honest with our users without going negative. Like, are there particular ways to massage that conversation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have done things like write and rewrite emails 10, 20 times. I put off doing it. These are good strategies. Write this down. Write this down. Procrastinate, yes. It's a fine line and it requires diplomacy. And, in a lot of situations, in most situations, you're there representing the company and you want to, express what are the things that they will actually benefit from this. The flip side of that is sometimes you can't. Sometimes there really isn't a reason. And the most important thing for you to do at that point is to say, this is the decision. We made this decision for X, Y, Z reasons. We require a log on to this site because, frankly, people were Bitcoin mining on our site and, random made up example. But, you come up with something that they can understand that is concretely and honestly part of the decision. You can't always be clear with people why decisions are made. I worked on a product for a while I was at Google. I was out there promoting it for a year and then was told that, no, we're going to build another product. You need to stop talking about this other thing. I was like, but you haven't built that other thing yet. So I'm just going to stop, dropped it completely. And I didn't have a choice on that matter. That's one of the situations where I feel like I could have fought back internally, at least I could have pushed back internally. So ultimately, you are constrained by company policies. What you do with that constraint, whether it's like, you argue about it internally, you pick your battles, you go on, it's a whole other thing.
Okay, well, thank you, Manu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.